Our story begins in a wilderness, a place of struggle, yet a place where faith grows strong. In this vast, barren land, a people journey toward freedom, led by a promise. Their journey is marked by the unseen hand of God, guiding, providing, protecting. And each year, for generations to come, they will remember this journey through a feast, a festival of dwelling under the open sky, surrounded by simple shelters. This is the Feast of Tabernacles. The Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot, goes back over 3,000 years to the Exodus, the great escape of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. For 40 years they wandered in the wilderness, without cities, without homes, living in temporary shelters. These makeshift tents or booths represented their dependence on God for daily survival. Every morning, manna appeared. Every evening, water sprang from the rocks. This wilderness was more than just a physical journey. It was a place where the people of Israel learned to trust in God. After the Exodus, when the people reached Mount Sinai, God commanded them to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In Leviticus 23, God declares it a time of gathering, a time to remember. For 7 days you are to live in temporary shelters, he says, so that your descendants will know that I had the Israelites live in booths when I brought them out of Egypt. And so this feast became a lasting ordinance, not just a memory, but a command, a sacred rhythm in the Jewish calendar, celebrated every year after the harvest. In the years that followed, the Feast of Tabernacles became a time of great joy and celebration. After the harvest, people would travel from all over Israel to Jerusalem, carrying branches to construct their booths. They would wave palm branches, recite psalms, and rejoice together. It was a festival of life, a time to thank God for his provision. At the heart of the festival was the temple, where priests would pour water over the altar, a symbolic act of asking for rain, for God's blessing on the land. This water-pouring ceremony, along with the waving of branches, embodied the people's trust that God would provide for them, as he did in the wilderness. Yet as centuries passed, the prophets began to call the people back, reminding them that Sukkot wasn't just a ritual, but a call to trust in God's presence and live righteously. The prophet Zechariah spoke of a future where all nations would one day celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles together. He described a time when Jerusalem would be the center of worship for the whole world, and all people would come to worship the King. Through Zechariah, God revealed a vision of a restored world, where his kingdom would bring peace and unity, a foreshadowing of the ultimate kingdom to come. When Jesus walked the earth, the Feast of Tabernacles was celebrated with even greater joy. Crowds would gather in Jerusalem, building their booths and worshipping. In the temple, lamps were lit at night, symbolizing the light of the world. The water-pouring ceremony continued as the priests asked for rain and thanked God for his provision. It was during this feast that Jesus stood in the temple and declared, "If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as the scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them." In that moment, Jesus claimed to be the fulfillment of Sukkot, the one who provides living water, the true source of life and peace. Today, the Feast of Tabernacles still carries the promise of what's to come. Christians see it as a reminder of the kingdom, a kingdom where God will dwell fully among his people. In Revelation, we're given a vision of this kingdom. God will live with us, wipe every tear, and be our shelter forever. It's a picture of the ultimate tabernacle where there's no need for a temple, for God himself is our dwelling. So, from ancient Israel to the world today, the Feast of Tabernacles carries the story of God's presence, provision, and promise of restoration. It reminds us of a time when God's dwelling place will be with humanity, a time when he will be our God, and we will be his people forever. The Feast of Tabernacles calls us to remember our dependence on God. It invites us to reflect on his faithfulness and look forward to his promise. The journey of Sukkot, from the wilderness to Jerusalem to Jesus and beyond, reminds us that we too are pilgrims walking toward a kingdom where God's presence is our true home.